Welcome to Stories Worth Hearing. I'm your host, John Quick, and today's guest is a man who built one of the most powerful news organizations in America from the ground up, Christopher Ruddy, the founder and chief executive officer of Newsmax. Christopher Ruddy is one of the most influential figures in modern media. In 1998, he founded Newsmax with a clear and ambitious mission to deliver credible, engaging, and balanced journalism that connects with everyday Americans. What started as a small online news magazine from his apartment has grown into a mainstream media network, reaching over 40 million households nationwide, ranking among the top cable news channels in the United States. Newsmax is now a fixture on television, digital, and print platforms, producing breaking news, in-depth analysis, and original programming that rivals any major network. Under Ruddy's leadership, Newsmax has become known for its dynamic programming and commitment to covering the stories that matter most to the nation's future. The network's lineup of anchors and commentators features respected voices from across the country, combining serious journalism with open, thoughtful debate. Beyond television, Newsmax.com ranks among the most visited political news websites in America, continuing the company's tradition of digital innovation and direct engagement with its audience. Before launching Newsmax, Christopher worked as an investigative journalist for the New York Post and Pittsburgh Tribune-Review, where his groundbreaking reporting gained national attention. His first-hand experience in journalism, combined with his entrepreneurial drive, helped him build a media company that has transformed how millions of Americans consume news today. In this conversation, we'll talk about how he built Newsmax from an idea into a household name, the principles that shaped his leadership, the lessons he's learned along the way, and his vision for the future of media in America. This is a story about courage, conviction, and the power of believing in a mission. And it's definitely a story worth hearing. Let's dive in.
Chris, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to have you on the show.
John, thank you for having me.
Well, this will be fun. I think it'll be fun for my listeners to hear a little bit about the secret sauce of behind the scenes of starting Newsmax. So take me back.
I want you to know that I'm going to be quick today.
I like that.
No pun intended.
Well, take me back to what first inspired you to start Newsmax. I know that there's a lot of work that's put into it. You seem to be getting more and more popular every single month. Tell me about what it looked like when you first started it. Why'd you start it?
Well, I would say that, we had the same problem we had 25 years ago, 27 years ago when I started Newsmax, although it's worse today than it was then. The extreme bias in the quote-unquote mainstream media, establishment media, was serious then. Now it's severe. Now it's off the charts. But when I started, I felt I was a journalist. I had covered the Clinton White House. I had done other work at the New York Post, the Pittsburgh paper, the Hoover Institution. And I felt that there was a need for another media outlet. I saw that when the internet started in the 90s, there were a lot of liberal sites, but not many conservatives. Very impressed by a number of websites that came up. So I started Newsmax and as a digital media company. So that's 1998.
Yeah.
And I raised about $15 million to build the company. And I lost about 13 and a half before I turned a profit. And then never needed any money for another 15 years until I started this TV channel called Newsmax. And now we're one of the leading cable news channels in the United States. We've overcome amazing obstacles.
When you first launched, did you ever imagine that it would grow into what it is today? It seems to be one of, if not the premier conservative news channels in America.
I think it's probably the most important channel in a way because we're the only one that's consistently true to our principles. I think Fox had been good for a long time, but Fox is changing. I think you're going to continue to see changes. As a network, for instance, they've embraced climate change.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is part of the whole woke. You have to believe everything in the climate change ideology now if you're a Fox employee. They had a policy that anybody that didn't do a COVID vaccine at Fox was fired. I think that was wrong. I think people should and could have conscientious objections. I think the vaccine was okay. At the time, it was a national emergency. But you go through this long list of things. They don't like Donald Trump, right? They opposed him in 16. They opposed him in 20. They opposed him again in 24. He keeps winning. And so, we're more in tune, I think, with the populist base of the Republican Party, the conservative base of the party.
So how have you kept that kind of through line to not compromise the direction and integrity of Newsmax when it seems like all the other channels just kind of cave in eventually?
Well, you have to stand for something and you have to be willing to, if we went more woke, I guess we'd get more advertising, right? But you say, look, there's limits. We're not going to just do something. We're not going to sell out. We're going to stand for something. I think we have a long history, almost 30 years of standing for something. So, and President Trump says he likes Newsmax. I think it's his
Yeah.
favorite channel. He talks about it a lot. He tells me all the time. I just spoke to him this past week how much he likes Rob Finnerty, Rob Schmidt, Greg Kelly, Carl Higbee, that he's watching all of our shows. He said openly people should be watching. And Don Jr. went public and said Fox is bad. Fox had banned him. Fox had banned the president. Fox had banned Charlie Kirk.
Yeah. Tell me your thoughts on Charlie Kirk. We live in a day where, we can no longer, seems like people lose their minds based off conversation and people are being murdered for having a difference of opinion. That sent shockwaves kind of through the conservative community. What's been your thoughts on it?
Charlie was a friend of mine. I knew him well. I met him almost 10 years ago at the Trump Hotel when he was starting with the Trump administration, working closely with the president and Don Jr. He had started a few years earlier. I was very impressed with him, and basically Newsmax was his platform.
Yeah.
And when he was banned, he's told me many times how much he appreciated Newsmax, that when he was banned from Fox, that he could go on Newsmax and get Turning Point's views out. Look, Charlie was an amazing man. And, he didn't go to college. He did briefly. He went to college. Somebody said, well, he didn't go to college. He didn't go to college because he was a genius. And he obviously went to a small Midwestern school and felt out of place, but he was brilliant. He's smarter than most kids that ever graduated from college. So, he had an amazing, I liked his faith-based as a Christian. I think it was tremendous that he was open about his views on it. And that, to me, and I don't think Gut the Fence Charlie felt like he was trying to convert people to Christianity. I think he was trying to say that America was a great country because of our Judeo-Christian ethics and principles and the founding principles of the nation. There's an effort by some libertarians, younger conservatives, secularists to get away from that. I think it's a dangerous thing because our freedoms came out of the crucible of faith, and now it's under siege in so many ways. So I really admire that. We've done two books. One was Pagan Threat. Believe it or not, Newsmax has a publishing house. We've had a whole bunch of New York Times bestsellers. And Charlie wrote the foreword for our last book by Pastor Lucas Miles called Pagan Threat. And Charlie's foreword, it's very ominous because he talks about the terrifying dangers that we all face and that the secularism was going to destroy, wokeism would destroy America if it wasn't stopped. And that book is available on Amazon, Pagan Threat, or on a website called paganthreat.com. Dick Morris, who worked closely with Charlie in the Trump campaign, has a book detailing how they worked together to help get Trump elected called The Real Charlie Kirk. That's on Amazon right now. Great book. Dick Morris is very famous. And I got a website called charlie411.com. So check out those books. They're really good. And I think they really give you a sense of what Charlie was all about.
Nice. I'll put all the links to the podcast description. You're friends with Donald Trump, President Trump. Why do you think he relates to conservatives so quickly, or just the average American? You get to talk to him, spend time with him. Most people don't ever get to do that. Give us a little behind the scenes on why you think Donald Trump can kind of cut through all the BS and make people feel like they want to root for him no matter what.
Yeah. Well, I've known him for almost 30 years, probably talked to him once a week for every week for 25 years. So I know the guy pretty well, very well. I was there with the good times. I was there in the bad times. And I think he's a very amazing guy. He's superhuman in his capabilities and abilities. So, not everybody is, I think that's a gift from God. So not everybody has that and can ever perform. You can't read the book and be Donald Trump.
Yeah.
read the book and mimic some of the things Trump does and try to do that. And some of them can be very good for your career and business and success. The word integrity means you're integral. If somebody is nice at the office but mean at home, they don't have real integrity in my mind. Integrity means you're the same person pretty much wherever you go, whatever your circumstances. Now, you may be angry at some points and happy at others, but you're a similar person and you show those similar emotions in different venues. And I think Trump has that type of emotional integrity where, and that's what resonates with people. He's very real and he's not a phony, and he talks to me just like he talks to the public. Now, sometimes when you capture it on TV, the way the camera is and the stage and the comments, people think, oh, he's hard hitting, he's mean, he's this and that. When they meet him in person, they realize some of it's quite theatrical.
Yeah.
And I've never had a person that met Trump. I've introduced him to many people, supporters, non-supporters. I'm one of the few people who bring over somebody he doesn't like so I can see his reaction. But every person I've ever brought over to see him, they've always said to me, wow, he's nicer than I thought. He's such a nice man. He's so interesting. He's so charming. Not necessarily something you get watching, White House press conference. He's in a very combative mode in those situations. He feels like he's like cornered in the White House or by the press, and he's hitting back.
Yeah.
So I think that about him. And he comes from, his family were very wealthy real estate people from Queens, New York, but they came from middle-class roots. They came from humble beginnings. His father's family were immigrants to the country. His mother was an immigrant. So I think he appreciates the American dream in a way that most people don't.
What do you think, looking back, Newsmax went public. It's like you've spent 30 years of your life building this thing that is now a ginormous media company. What are some of the things that you look back on and are those pivotal moments that helped propel you to get to where you're at now?
I don't do a lot of looking back. I think the toughest time we were taken off DirecTV.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and everybody knows about that battle. And I think, we have a good relationship with DirecTV now. I think they're in a better place. We're in a better place after all of that. And we like DirecTV. But it was at the time a bit of a battle. And I think that was a turning point for us in a way and showed our resolve. And our supporters and viewers really stuck with us. We're probably 2 or 3 times larger than we were at that time. And in fact, we've gotten on every major cable system. So if you can't find us, look for us. Hulu just added us this past summer. We're on YouTube TV. We're on Google. We're on Comcast, Spectrum, DirecTV, Dish, all those systems. And we have a free app where you can watch us on the streaming channel anywhere in the world. You just download the Newsmax app and you can just watch it. And then if you want, you can upgrade to get the cable channel as well at a very small fee. So
Nice.
We're excited about that. We have a lot of subscribers to that. And again, the audience has been growing very significantly. The Reuters Institute did a study, John, last year, and they asked Americans, what are the top media brands that you go to for news? And they said there were 12 major news brands in the United States, and one of them was Newsmax.
That's great.
So it was amazing because we're relatively new. It's the New York Times and ABC News. These guys have been around for 150 years, whatever. And we didn't have the billions of dollars. You know what we had? We had people power. We had you and people in Alaska and people across the country that were tuning into Newsmax. And they go to newsmax.com and they go, wow, I like this. They go to our podcasts or to our app.
Yeah.
They go to our channel. And it's addictive. And so the audience numbers have been growing. And I think it's really important because there's not more conservative media, there's less conservative media as a result of all of this censorship and big tech consolidation. It's really incumbent on us to continue what we're doing.
So what's next for Newsmax? You like to look forward. You're a visionary leader. What's the big dream for Newsmax in the next 5-10 years?
Well, we still want to we always say we're all things to all people. We're on all platforms. and we're on podcasts, we're in radio to a degree, we're in TV, we're in streaming, we're in print. I have a print magazine, Newsmax magazine, which is very popular. We have so many things going on. And we really developed this idea that a media company is really a media station that emanates on different platforms. And I think we were the leaders in that. And I think there's battles ahead, even in the Trump administration. The Trump FCC under Brendan Carr is moving to give the major networks and big station groups the right to reach 100% of the U.S. market. It's a very dangerous thing they're doing because the big media companies are almost all opposed to Trump and all opposed to conservatives.
Yeah.
And local news is where most people get their news. They don't get it from the internet because there's no newspapers left really anymore. There are very few. And so what Reagan did in the 90s was, I'm sorry, in the 80s, Reagan said, look, we'll let these TV networks like ABC and CBS go out, but they can't own the stations in more than 25% of U.S. homes, reaching 25% of U.S. homes. And he knew intuitively, if you let those big networks from New York, the balance of power will be all left wing in the country.
Yeah.
And so over time, that capped from 25 to 39. Now, Brendan and the FCC is trying to move it to 100%.
Dang.
These guys all oppose President Trump. They're all bad actors, pretty much. The one group now seeking a merger to go to 80% is Nexstar. Nexstar owns News Nation, which is a left-wing news network with Chris Cuomo and Ashley Banfield and Elizabeth Vargas, Dan Abrams, all liberals. They've been bashing Trump and Newsmax for 4 years, and now they want to get 100% reach for their TV station group. It's a very dangerous move. We're encouraging people to call their congressmen and senators, telling them not to oppose the FCC cap lift and not allow these networks to merge.
Yeah. Well, I want to be mindful of your time. You're a busy man. And, I'm a huge fan of Newsmax. Obviously, I have a column there, and I think that you guys are doing amazing things. I think when I think about everyday, I live up here in Alaska, just everyday normal people, most everyday normal person that I know watches Newsmax. And I think there's something to be said about that. Last question before we head off. Do you have any advice for folks that are just starting out? I mean, you hustled and grinded and started this company. I think I read you started it with $25,000 and an idea. And so what kind of advice would you give folks that are maybe just starting out? Maybe they've got a couple thousand followers on Instagram, or they're going to start their own podcast, or, it's tough out there, and you did it. What's advice you give to somebody?
I think the race is typically won not by the fastest runner or the slowest runner, but the runner that never gives up, right? So you have to, don't give in too early. Know that there's the light, the sunrise is just around the corner. And so, I think most businesses don't succeed because people give up too early. And then if you find you're not thinking that things are working, innovate, do something different. I'll give you an example. We didn't see we could sell banner ads in the early days of the internet. Even then, the liberals were blocking us. So we started a publication that made a lot of money called Newsmax Magazine.
Yeah.
Nobody was doing it. Now some people started doing magazines after we started doing it with their websites. Now that's a small part of our business, but at that time, that was a very critical part of our business. And TV, we're willing to innovate, on the streaming. So don't give up, and just be honest in your business dealings. When I was losing money as a businessman, I would show people how this is where we're losing, but here's where the revenues are rising, and at some point we will turn a profit. Now we're a public company. We're on the New York Stock Exchange. And I might add, if you want to join our news revolution, you can find out more. Just go talk to your stock advisor or go to newsmaxinvest.com. And we think the share price is a good price, and that we think the future of Newsmax is going to be very strong.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you nothing but
and
success.
John, my hat is off to you. Through the years, you've kept in very good contact and you follow up on things. Oh. And I don't do a lot of podcasts, but when you asked, I said I'm going to do John's.
Well, I'm a huge fan of you and Newsmax, and it's been fun to see you continue to grow every year. I mean, I feel like Newsmax, the sky's the limit for it because you've kept your guys' through line. You haven't compromised on who you are and what you are, and you haven't tried to sway what your beliefs in being a conservative in America. So I appreciate what you do, and we hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll send you all the links when we're done here.
And my regards to the great people of Alaska. You're at the front lines of freedom.
Awesome. Thanks so much, and appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, John. God bless.